Yo, 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 yo. What's good? This just reminded me of, I'm wondering why my audio is so low. But it just reminded me of that troll song. It just in general, my audio has been really low lately. Alright, that might be too loud, but we'll see. What's going on, Luciferius? Hey, how did your truck weighing go the other day? I wonder if the audio thing is a Windows update thing? Maybe my drivers don't work anymore or something? Hold the phone. I gotta figure this out. What the fuck? Sound control panel. Dude, why would they bury this thing under so many different layers of other clicks just to figure out what the fuck is going on, man? That's so infuriating. That's what I just set it up for. So. Oh, hey, can I listen to myself? Yo. Yo. No, I can't. Very unfortunate. Oh, maybe it's this one. Yo. Holy shit. Haha. Wow. That's exactly what I was looking for earlier anyway. Is a way to listen to my own audio. I don't think it's going through the speakers though. Can you guys hear an echo? Fortunately, I wasn't having an issue since it was time for regular maintenance on the scale. Keep it calibrated. Oh, that was pretty good timing for it to break that way. Yeah, I don't think it's going through on OBS. I'm not seeing any. Well, we can test it really quickly by turning off the music. Yeah, doesn't look like there's anything going back into it, so hopefully that's fine. That's pretty funny that was all I needed. Okay, so that's not what got fucked up though. There was something else. It just feels like the audio is just generally lower now. I'm not really sure why. Don't quite understand that one. It's weird to have this back now though. This whole hearing myself talking. Having it back now, of all fucking times, to have it back. Because I just didn't have it for a long time. So that's really strange. It's like a month or so almost with this new microphone now. And only now figuring out, oh yeah, it's just some fucking Windows option. Well, anyway, I don't know what caused the audio issue, per se. But we're back down to the previous levels. And I think I can just adjust the gain on my end. Hold on. Okay. So I can put it to a comfortable level on my end anyway, and that can be fine. Though this does turn me up as well. But I can fuck around with that stuff later. No issues. We'll move that to the second monitor. Second desktop. All right, so what are we doing today? That is the question. I honestly have no fucking idea what we're doing today. I can work on my map, but I think I'm going to work on some programming today instead, just for the time being. So we're going to move everything over to my third setup. And I do have the function that I need to take a look at here. So I think I'm in whack funcs. It would be really helpful if it actually told me what the parent thing was or whatever, but... Oops. And I should check... Oh, let me open up the Firefox window over here. So I actually tried a couple of tools lately, that groupie tool that I was talking about yesterday on stream. Unfortunately, it seems like there's a lot of bugs with that program, so at some point later on, when I have a bit more time, I'm going to reinstall it, maybe tonight. I'm going to see what I can find out about it. But, you know, I was just trying a 30-day trial, and it's like one of those Stardock tools, and I haven't heard anything good about their games, but, because they made, like, Ashes of the Singularity and stuff. So, like, they have the games developing and stuff, but I figured, like, it seems like there's enough people that are actually checking out their quality of life desktop enhancement software. So why wouldn't there be some sort of connection there? And gotta figure out what this takes. It does take 1 unit argument, so we're gonna say. But yeah, that software does not seem proper to me. There's something very wrong with it. It worked really, really well for the first day. Or whatever, like the first couple hours. And then that night, yesterday, I was fucking around with it. I was trying to like mess around with the settings. And it was pulling Explorer windows and other windows as well, like command prompt windows and stuff. It was just pulling shit from my second and third virtual desktops, the things that I tab between every now and then. It was pulling stuff from them. And I'm like, the whole point of the software is so that I can keep things grouped together, and locking it didn't help. Maybe this is a known bug where you can't use virtual desktops or whatever. And so then I was thinking, like, well, if I just have everything like set up in its own group, then maybe I don't need virtual desktops. Like, I can just have, here's the fucking Discord bot stuff, and here's the audio stuff, and here's the programming stuff, and I can kind of sort it all into its own workspace on the same desktop, even though it feels like a regression in features. It is a regression in features, but it also feels like, oh, this is kind of shit for a couple of different reasons. So that didn't really sit right with me. And then after that, it was like, I don't really know what to do from there. And then I found out when I was slapping all of the different Python programs together, it did not work out very well with them. And if you had like actual programs where it almost made sense to me that, like, oh yeah, each tab up here is a different file that I'm editing. Like, each tab up there is a different program for Python. So like the, you know, PyDat and PyMPQ and PyTile and whatever. Unfortunately, performance was horrible in those files. It would regularly just lock up my entire, like, everything that I had open, including other windows. Like, I couldn't then tab out into my Explorer windows. Those would also lock up. So it seems like it's really only useful for light things where you're not using multiple virtual desktops. So I couldn't find anything online either. So that's one of those things that, you know, maybe it's just a version instability and it'll get better later, but I'm not going to bother fucking paying for software if the 30-day trial doesn't even convince me that it's usable. It's pretty silly. Let's see. I still don't really know what it means to have these arig calls. I'm pretty sure these are just defining what the original function does. So let's take a look at something that actually returns a function. If we look back to our so here we have hardware unit returns U32, and I think when it returns something, you have to like return it inside and outside the parentheses for whatever reason. Yeah, like over here. So like in this case, I don't actually know if this function returns a U32 or if it returns a unit or what. So I have to figure that out. But for the time being, I can define it as a U32 just as a placeholder. So the other thing is I don't actually need, you see where it says like let result equals a rig? That's because that's like basically just saying, all right, we've done the bare minimum of hooking it so that it runs through our plugin instead of running through the original code, but we're still running all of the original code, so there's not really a functional difference. It's just where's the code called from. All right, so building more hook. I wonder why the... hold on. I have to scroll really fucking far down to find this. Is there a way I can clone this? It doesn't look like it at first glance. Break inner. That's some syntax right there. Okay, here we go. So we define unit, and then we do the rig call, and in the rig call we write mute hardware unit. I think we do the... oh wait, we don't need the comma if it's the last field, so then we do parentheses, arrow, return result, comma, end parentheses, arrow, return result, open curly bracket. Okay. Or curly brace, I guess. So, in this case, we need unit equals unit. That. What's up, Veek? And so we would do this. We'll just say U32. Because I don't actually know if it's a U32 or not. And then we just leave that. It's not necessary. It's really weird to me that this Visual Studio Code program like just does not actually check syntax and tell you like, oh yeah, you got an error here. It doesn't tell you fucking anything until you restart the program. As soon as you modify code, it starts breaking again. I wonder if that's like a Rust specific thing. I don't use it for anything else, so I don't really know for sure. Okay. So then we write our actual function within that. That makes sense. Yeah, it is supposed to be a colon. That's what I was double checking there, is making sure that my syntax was correct. Good catch. All right, so now we have the pseudocode that we just got done from the IDA. Should be on my other monitor. I don't know what the fuck this is. QMemCPY. Is that a fucking C command? What the fuck? QMemCPY. Let's take a look. Copies the value of num bytes from the location pointed to by source. Okay. I don't know what the Q part means. Where do I find add-ons in this thing again? Help. Do I have to, like, restart the program or something? I remember there was some weird shit that I could do. When I was first launching this program, there was a bunch of areas. Oh, extensions. Here we go. I have better TOML. Did I? Was it, whatever it wasn't intentional, man. So rust assist. Rust assist. Rust assist. Okay. How do I grab it? Just click it. Okay, when I click it, it just takes me to that. Oh, there's a tiny fucking install button right there. An install button for ants. Buy. Okay, well, I did that. Hopefully, it does something. Okay. So where was I just now to get to extensions? Go back to Explorer. Okay, so we have, I guess it has to be mutable. And we have, what do we have here? Hey, it started marking shit as incorrect. That's pretty cool. Why is it doing that? Oh, maybe I need a comma over here or something stupid. No? Oh, maybe it's because there's a comma in this? Them's the syntax, you dummy. So I don't know. I fucked something up there. I'll take a look at it later. Do you mean like use parentheses, not braces? I don't know what you mean. I only have one brace, and it's right here. And it's for the function. Hold on. Where's my buttons conned? There we go. So I mean, I'm just copying the syntax from everything else. There's only one argument. It's the unit. Unless you're trying to tell me that the unit should be defined afterwards, but that's not the case over here. There's no opening parentheses for it to match, so I don't see how that would be it. There's only two parentheses sets. Looks like it's defining an array here. 6284E8 compared to 4BD. 6284BD. Or B8, sorry. So this is a little bit earlier. So it's just a bit of a bigger number here. I don't know if that means this is a number or not. Looks like it is. It's client select 3. Yeah, this is the one. Alright, so now we have to go in here and define this. Oh. What do I have to do? I guess I just have to write that or something. When I see other, I don't know if it's a U8 or U32. Doesn't really define it in the context of this. Yeah. How are you, Alexander? Have you decided you want to star in the Taken movies? Maybe that was a casting check. It's like, hey, you're an actor. You want to be an actor in this movie? So it basically clones the array current unit selection, which I just defined as client select 3. I'm not sure if you need to do something special in Rust for that one. So we would say A2 equals... do it this way. Client select 3. And we can just hope that that counts. I have no idea what the syntax actually is for this stuff. What the fuck? Is that your guys' way of saying that the phone is out of service or something? Mom didn't pay her bills again. They're playing fucking Netflix over her phone number. What the hell? That's pretty good. I like that. Meanwhile, Icor's working on some other stuff. I don't quite. Okay. We gotta figure some shit out here, boys. I have no idea how I'm translating that syntax, man. Unfortunately, this is like the best learning process for me, which means it's really slow. But it's like, well, I don't know if it's the best learning process for me, but it's the one that seems to work with my schedule anyway. Is that I basically just throw my head at the wall. I use my current knowledge to try to finish something, and then eventually somebody will step in and be like, all right, here's what you did wrong, and here's why it's wrong. And I'll internalize like half of that knowledge, and the other half I'll have to go back and look at. And then there's like probably a decent chunk of that falls through the cracks and needs to be repeated to me again, unfortunately. And so that's how I'm learning Rust syntax, basically. At the very least, I don't have to do all the fucking pseudocode myself and just translate it with this stuff. But while A2 result, let's say if Oh, maybe this is one of the hard code things for well, no, I don't know why the fuck that would matter. It's like checking to see if the number of units that are in the selection is greater than 12. Have you seen updates to my mana map? Actually, no. When did you post it? I saw Balefal's. Well, I saw that he posted something. I haven't looked at it yet. I was helping him out in DMs a while ago. I think maybe I did look at... Oh, more adjustments in the middle on the 10th? Is that when you posted it? It was 2 days ago. What's up, Helltrix? What's going on? Maybe... I know you posted one version in the Hydra channel, so that might be the one that you were talking about, and I just missed it. Because we were in the middle of talking about like 60 things, I think, or something at the time, so it just ballooned out of control. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that the method doesn't work. It's pretty much how I've learned anything technical, and just a lot of like experimenting until I can't seem to find a solution. It's just that it's really slow. It does guarantee that you build up the fundamentals if you stick to it. I don't really even care that it's that slow, but it's probably not going to be very fun to watch while I'm doing it on stream. That's my only sort of concern there. Nice. Yeah, I'm glad to see that you survived the storm, Helltrix. That was some nasty storm. Right after I finished streaming, it started downpouring over here too, so I think you sent it my way. I guess it's more likely that they were just two unrelated storms, but it's pretty funny. Funny timing. Oh, it looks like A1 is the argument. So that's where I was confused. So we'll say unit. AE40. So now I need to find whack funks. Well, first let's see what Nave defined this as. Update selection. Always nice when he ends with buzzing names. Alright, so we have... We'll say U32. And I'm assuming it returns something. Result +1, so they must be related, yeah.
Only so many storms you would dare strike our fraudulent houses. Our fraudulent domains.
Yeah, I'm wondering why it doesn't like that. What? Yeah, I think maybe the add-on is still busted because it's maybe it can't find shit that's not even over here. Yeah, what's up, Muted Dozen? How are you? Alright, I'll take a look at the map in a bit. It's weird that I haven't had any issues with Radman, but it seems like you guys have. I wonder why that is. Maybe installing the server stops that from happening somehow? I don't know why it would, but... Okay. Anyway. I have 4C0860. Okay. Well, we have a definition for it, but it doesn't look like it exists here. Well, that's a fucking mega function. Holy moly. Okay. There we go. Ah, shit. Page down. So what was that called? Send, change, command. Yeah, that was it. Oh great, now I get to hunt down more of these. Was it one? Yeah. Alright, hold on. Just so I know what's going on here. Maybe I already have this one here. Force button refresh. Looks like I needed that at some point. Redraw. Status screen redraw. Yeah, I don't actually know what I did with these braces. I feel like I have one too many. So this one is the hull function. This one is the while loop. So this one should be outside of the while loop. Actually, that's weird. I don't... Oh, never mind. The while loop itself should have an end brace. And that was what we... Okay. Alright, so now we have the building blocks for the actual hook, where the functionality is there. It's just definitely not in the right syntax. What's up, Dark Zero Warrior? What's up, Imgiralia? How you guys doing? How's the progress? Pretty good. I'm actually starting on the code, or just finished the first step of the code for what will allow me to allow the Protoss morphs of Hydra, which I'll show off in a sec here. Placeholder graphics, as always. Oops. I was testing in Melee earlier. So, in Hydra, you have these custom Protoss structures where you can convert your gateway into a few different things. And depending on what structure you convert to, it unlocks one unit and disallows another unit. So the Principality removes the ability to train Zealots, but you get Legionnaires, which are a modified, like, less tanky, less durable, overall, like, cheaper alternative to the Zealot, but they have a few characteristics that make them much more useful in large numbers, if they can get to their target. And then there's, like, a whole host of upgrades that you can do for them and stuff. So there's a bit of a difference there in terms of their combat role and in terms of what they're useful for, in terms of the matchup that they go into. So basically, you can convert your gateway there. Now, that's already been done. Let's speed up the game here so that it doesn't take as long. And then, as you can see, now I can warp in Legionnaires, same hotkey as a Zealot for UI purposes, but you just do that, and now you got your Legionnaire. The problem is, now obviously I can't convert it back. And I want to be able to convert it back. I also want to be able to take, the Warp Anchor, which is another one that replaces the Dragoon with a different unit. And I want to be able to say, hey, I actually need that unit now, so I'm going to convert this Principality into a Warp Anchor instead. And, go directly to that morph if I want to. Likewise, I want to be able to morph back into a Gateway if I want to train Zealots again. So I want to have that flexibility there for the Protoss, should they need to customize it. Right now we can't do that. The code that I just wrote is sort of like the first step into unlocking the functionality to be able to do that. So that's what I was just doing now. That being said, we have already implemented a lot of really interesting stuff. I'm actually not sure if Iquare, the real code guy, the code diver, as it were, I'm actually not 100% sure if he's working on this at some point, but there's pretty much only like 1 or 2 bugs left in the new mind control system, which I'm really happy about. I don't think I've actually showed this off on stream in a while, but... So, normally, mind control is not researched by default. And as you can see, instead of it costing 150 energy, which is what it costs in vanilla, it only costs 25 energy. Also a tooltip that explains what it does, because it has been modified. So if we do like... I think that'll do it. Oh. Here we go. Alright, so we got our Marines. They're a little angry. And we want to pacify some of them. And we're going to go ahead and just... They're shooting at our ships, man. It's all over. But we want to quell this little uprising here. So what we can do with the new mind control is, rather than spending it on only expensive units, we can also do it in mass numbers. And as you can see, I ran out of energy, so all those units were returned back to their original owner. Because the cast itself is 25 energy, and then it drains energy commensurate to how much supply worth of units you've mind controlled. So, for example, if we end up saying, all right, it's okay, his ally brought an Ultralisk, which is 27. So we mind control that instead and use him to get rid of the Marines. You'll notice that our energy is going down much faster than just a couple of Marines. And indeed, when the caster also dies, which might happen after the the energy has gone away because the caster has a lot of shields. But if the caster were to die, that also resets the mind control status, right? But I'll show you the bug that I'm currently aware of. As we do this, and well, the unit is technically the enemies. As you can see, we had to unload all instead of unloading normally, but it doesn't just get out of the shuttle by itself. So that's like the current bug. I'm actually surprised it didn't crash the game or something crazy, because that's what I would expect. But gotcha, bitch. Oh. There you go. Slow her down a little bit. Probes are getting in on the action. Anyway, that happens. We obviously don't want the... we don't want the enemies to be stuck inside our transports, right? So instead, what they should do is, if they're over passable ground, they should immediately eject from the shuttle. And that's not even something I thought about. Actually, Hoopthrower, welcome to the stream, by the way. So in that case, if we spawn, a dropship, or we spawn dropship for the enemy, and then we mind control them, I don't actually know what happens if we pick up some units. Well, let's throw some zealots in there. Or I guess these are, yeah, they are zealots. Alright. So now what happens? Oh, they turned into our units. Or their units, rather. What's up? Welcome back. Welcome back, homie. That's pretty funny. I would not have expected that one. That's pretty cool. I like that. Fuck them up. How do I do this again? Holy that guy, dude. Alright, he's out of here. So, I guess that's one exploit you can do for your enemy, is you can mind control his transport, load your units in there, and then give him free units. You could do that. So what should happen there is the same sort of thing that happens in the inverse case, where we have a mind-controlled unit that the Dark Archon expires or runs out of energy. So the mind control effect goes away. Our units, in that case, should also eject from the transport immediately. So that way you can still do some weird stuff with that. I actually have a different idea for transports, generally speaking. One of the things I want to incorporate into Hydra, is the ability for my ally to pick up my units with their transports, and vice versa. And for, like, obviously this means that only Terran units can go into bunkers, for example, but if I can, if we're a 2v2 and we're both Terran, and he slaps down a bunker, but I got all the Marines, I think we should still be able to make something out of that. You know what I mean? So that's what I like. That's an idea that I like. I think that's pretty cool. It would definitely be a little silly. But stuff like that, being able to grab my allies' units with the transport and move his tanks up or whatever, help him with micro. The obvious initial concern whenever you hear something where your ally can interact with your units in a more free and liberal manner, it usually results in people complaining about the potential for griefing, but I don't really care about that. Like, to me, it's like, well, if you're gonna grief, then you're not playing to win, and you should be playing to win. So, like, I don't see why I should design my shit around that. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how that will work out, because then at that point as well, like, if your allies' units are in there, your ally should be able to, like, click on the units in the command card to unload them. It's like give them unload commands in case that's what's something they want. That way you can just tell your ally to, like, hey, send that transport somewhere else. I'll unload them, which I think is kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, hey, maybe any unit that's got the supply. That's a quote-unquote infantry unit. Any unit flagged as an infantry unit should be able to do it. Could you imagine a bunker with like basilisks or something, or those long-range hydralisk morphs? Fuck it, just put a lurker in a bunker and borrow him inside the bunker or something. He could only fit one anyway because it's four size. I could see stuff like that happening. Anyway, since I have this hook started, I have no idea what the syntax errors are with them. I'm pretty sure they're all a disaster. And I think with functions, we don't need the asterisk calls, but for variables we do. Let me see what I did. Yeah. Okay. So that part seems correct. But I don't really know how to tell Rust to like handle arrays in the same way that C does. I don't really know how C does it either, so it's not even like I have proper knowledge from one language and I'm trying to import that to another language. Not that Rust is very intuitive in that sense anyway. But we have that done anyway, so I'll send this to Ikeware and he can critique it later. I guess I'll put it on paste bin. And then after that, we can take a look at the melee map that I was working on yesterday and update it up so that it's a little bit less goofy. Yeah, it's for version 1.16.1, which before the remaster was the final or last version of the game. The remaster changed a lot of things for the worse, but one of the things that they did on a more infrastructural level is basically, so if I go to this page real quick, you see all of these different things are pointing to, all of these different things are pointing to these long hexadecimal numbers, the 0 times 0, and then a bunch of random shit. So all of these are memory addresses. So it's like direct coordinates to, like, it's like what it sounds like. It's an address. And this is where certain data is stored, and the game knows to look for the data in those, at those addresses for checking the player ID or checking the unit ID or whatever data it needs to check. As a result of the changes to the code base in the remaster, these addresses were changed as well. That means that all of our plugins, like what this is code for a plugin, all of our plugins no longer work the same way because we're not dealing with the same addresses. So the game would look for the player ID or the currently selected unit amount so that it could mess with that and do whatever extra functionality we want, like making it so that the player ID is a computer player if the player is not a human player, or something, like converting it, or whatever functionality we want to do for the sake of argument. Being able to do that on 161 is super easy because we have the addresses. So we know, like, as long as our code works correctly, we know that the code is interacting with the right parts of the game. But that doesn't work because now on the remaster, because they're dealing with different parts of the game than we think we are. So that's the main reason, I would say, that we don't have the same amount of functionality between the two. Now, one thing that the remaster has that the base game does not is it has the ability to have, like, you basically don't have to be limited to palettes of 256 colors, and that is an inarguable advantage, but the tools to actually add custom graphics to the game are really, I don't know if primitive is the right word, it's just they're not user-friendly. And I think that's in large part due to the format of the graphics, because the graphical format also changed, which is why we need a new tool instead of an old tool. So you can't even really take advantage of that, in my opinion. Like, you can't add new shit to the tile set in a reasonable manner either. So all of the custom tiles that I have, like the swamp water that Dark and Fantasy's made, and similar stuff, good luck. You're not going to see that anywhere in the remaster, because for one, the swamp water here, where you can see it. Like, you can't actually have this in the remaster because you don't even have the ability to add it to the game. And in order to make the art work, like, look like it belongs in the remaster anyway, that's like a lot more intensive of a job. Not because it's a better art style, but because the art style is so much more detailed, which is not better for an RTS. It's actually much worse. It's much harder to read that game in the remastered graphics. So it's not even like it's a real improvement, but hopefully you get where I'm going with this. Basically, there's a lot of reasons why you can't mess around with graphics in that game, in that environment. And so that's like one of its inarguable advantages as a platform, is that we don't have to worry about limiting our palettes to the same thing. We can use any colors we want in theory, but unfortunately it doesn't really bear out that way, because we don't actually have total freedom. I'm trying to figure out where I want to put this geyser now that I'm restructuring. But yeah, that's like one of the things that I wish I had in this version of the game, but unfortunately it's a no-go. Yeah, I know, right? There's a lot of potential that was wasted. I'm telling you, man. Even the little graphics here that you see for the bits and pieces, like the mud on jungle and stuff like that. That stuff isn't, in theory, that difficult to assemble. And yet, nobody will assemble it, because even if you could, like, graphically make it, you can't actually make use of it by adding it to the game's files. So even something as basic as adding custom graphics to your tile set is impossible. Virtually impossible, I should say, because it is technically possible. But it's like being technically correct about something. It's like nobody cares. Nobody cares that you could do it. It's not feasible on a reasonable sense. Unfortunately, that's where remastered modding and such things are. That's just where they are now. That's how it is. Which really sucks, because it could have been a platform for, in theory, it has better multiplayer functionality. It has all sorts of stuff that, in theory, you would want out of your platform for Starcraft. Like, a big problem right now that we're still researching ways to sort of get out of is, how do we make it so that our players can play multiplayer without needing to jump through so many hoops? And it doesn't actually seem like it's feasible to find like a solution that will really work right now, without like developing a new piece of software, basically. And I'm fine doing that, but I was hoping that there'd be something out of the box right now. Unfortunately, as I've seen on Muted Dozen streams lately, it doesn't actually provide a uniquely better service. There's still a lot of lag going around in that fucking game, which blows my mind. Like, I really can't believe that that's really happening. Alright, so we need to move this up a little bit. I mean, I get the question a lot anyway, is like, so why don't you make this for the remaster? And the short answer is it's not even fucking possible to make it in the remaster, because of all of the limitations I just mentioned. Yeah, so it's not even like fetching the right data or whatever. Alright, I just gotta get rid of all the ruins over here. Did I miss any? Somehow. Alright, so we'll go ahead and turn off the mirror symmetry and do all of that so I can grab the mud. Oh, by the way, all of the code stuff that I was just complaining about wouldn't really matter if we had the source code to the game. But Apparently there are legal issues with releasing the source code, which blows my fucking mind. But I guess it's because of all the middleware they used. So they can't like release source code to stuff that is designed to interact with proprietary software. Or it's like you guys have a license to use the software, but not to sell it or whatever, give it away. So that opens up a whole nother can of worms that I'm not prepared to talk about based on my current knowledge of what's going on there. But it's a mess. Yeah, so there's actually an installation guide that I've made because people seem to... Well, maybe it's just like... Maybe this is a truism under normal circumstances, that downloading older versions or whatever is often difficult. But I've put together a 1.16.1 installation guide, so I'll drop it in the... oh, Mutas doesn't already have it. So yeah, like it's not difficult to set up Starcraft. You can even have Starcraft 1.61 and the remaster installed side by side with no issues. As long as you're doing it as per the guide that I have written that was just linked. So there's pretty much no concern to it. Yeah, it's, and again, I don't know if that's because, like, by and large, there are problems installing older versions or whatever, but for Starcraft, it's not an issue. You can have pretty much as all that shit running at the same time. Oh, it deleted it. Well, I'll link it, and I don't think it'll delete me. Nightbot is really dumb. At least we can still see your messages on the stream. Like, it shows up on the stream, I'm pretty sure. At least it shows up in my stream client, my chat client. So, in theory, it should be fine, but, you know. So. Oh shit, I just realized this ramp got kissed. Go ahead and fix that. Alright. Yeah, I think that was like the main issue with the map, was that expansion being really silly. Tidy up some of these clips. Otherwise, it's just like the lack of decor, which, you know, whatever. Doesn't really bother me. I'll add stuff to that later on if necessary. I could definitely add more shit to the swamp areas, that's for sure. They seem pretty barren. Ah, well. It's been a long time coming that I have something worth showing, so. It's just the result of when you do it all the time. I think I've done, like, as an example, I think I've done daily mod streams. Oh, actually, I don't even know the number. I have to look at that calendar site again. I think I have to go like number of days, days between dates. Yeah, here we go. So it was November 3rd of last year. Until today. So today is the 222nd mod stream in a row. When you're doing it that often, for that long, on a daily grind, you're bound to get somewhere. I didn't even know there was a challenge like that. I'm just seeing how far I can take it. Honestly, there's only been a handful of days where I felt like, I really wish I didn't have to do this. And then that feeling just kind of goes away for the most part. Yesterday was a rare day where I just felt like doing nothing the entire day, including my actual job and stuff. So I don't think, I think that there was something bigger going on there that maybe I was just, for whatever reason, unhappy with. But so as I understand, Veek, you've actually made some updates. I don't even know if Veek is still here, but he's made some updates to his map already, I think. Yeah, I think you were like mid last year, maybe. It was back when I was still doing Warcraft 3 content, so I might actually have been in it a couple of years ago, which is pretty nuts to think about by itself. What am I doing here? Yeah, so if you, I don't know if you want me to take a look at it now. It looks like you guys are in the middle of the game, so just let me know when you have some time. Oh yeah, should get rid of some stuff here. So we have all right, let's take a look. So it looks like you've decided to seal off the double gas over here. Make it a island. I like that the you only sealed off half of the high yield. Or half of the entrances, I should say. If it wouldn't completely destroy the AI, I would even do weird shit like blocking passage to mineral fields or whatever with those neutral structures or the sprites or whatever they are. They're probably. Oh, wait. Oh yeah, so you have to play UMS for this to even work because they're placed for dummy computer players. Oh yeah, I'm still planning on doing stuff. I have to do the Zerg expansion video at some point either this week or it'll be next. I'm gonna try to do it tonight when I get home, since I'll have a bit of time. I think there's like 2 more videos worth of content there, maybe. So we'll see what happens when I finish that one up. What I'll go for next. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure you've been around for a while, Dirk. You're aware. It's just that it probably feels like the time blew by because there wasn't that much interaction or whatever. But yeah, Hoop, if you finish translating those psychotic campaigns, you let me know, man. All right, so what to say so far here? After looking at this shit for a while, I'm looking at this map and I'm thinking the layout, like, obviously you improved it a lot from when it was like a mess to try to navigate in the middle of the map. But I feel like there's something missing to connect each part of the map. Like, there's nothing necessarily wrong with any single part of the map, but it feels like there is a lack of flow from one area to the next, which is really hard to critique or to provide like a counterexample because it's so amorphous. But it's like the map doesn't really guide you in any direction. It's just a lot of open ground. You want to balance your open ground with pathways. Open ground being a predominant factor can be fine, but then like the terrain itself, the textures on the ground, kind of have to point you in a certain direction and help guide you to where you're supposed to go. So an obvious, easy example is like the road in the Badlands tile set can be used for this, where you have like a nice little, oh, there's a line of tiles that are telling me to go this way, or like telling me that this is one way down a road or whatever. So like that's one easy example, but there's ways for you to construct stuff that's on a more subtle level still guiding, and one of the ways to do that could be through the ruins or through a dirt path or something like that. I feel like there wasn't really a whole lot of that going on here. The ruins seem to be, like, in some cases it seems like they fulfill a gameplay role, but in other cases it feels like maybe they're just there for random decoration. And I kind of get that with the trees as well. Like, one of the things that I think is generally useful for all players, or all melee mapmakers, I should say, is being able to hold off on making things decorative until you've really figured out what your layout is. So while it might not actually feel like it's helping, if you were to just delete all the trees in the middle so that your map had basically zero doodads, you might actually have zero doodads if you do that. If you were just to do that and like plan out where you were going to block terrain from a gameplay perspective, that would be a better starting position than having the trees but not knowing what their function is. Because right now I don't really know where. I don't really know like what the trees are meant to be, besides maybe they're meant to be cover. I guess they do provide a sort of gameplay purpose there. I also don't know if they are symmetrical. It doesn't look like it, but it's hard to tell. Maybe they are. If you wanted to make them symmetrical anyway, I don't even know if that's an intention. But again, I don't really know what the purpose they serve besides decorum. And your decoration, your doodadding, your aesthetics are not really anywhere close to your priority when you're still trying to figure out your layout. And so that's sort of where I'm at, you know, sort of puzzlingly scratching my head. The other thing is, and this is not really super linked to it, but it seems like maybe the centerpiece of this map, or the thing that the map was built around in theory, was supposed to be that like big complex temple thing in the middle, where there's a bunch of windly passageways and tiny things. And without that, I wonder if the map feels so amorphous and lacking in direction because it kind of lacks an identity. I mean, it's called Treacherous Woods, and you have a couple of trees. And so I'm wondering if maybe that is also contributing to it. And so I'm trying to think of ways that I can provide like a suggestion for improvement, and maybe that is to replace as much of the temple as possible with raised jungle. And if you intend for the raised jungle to just be a wall and not sort of like this where it's an island, you can drop on it or whatever, maybe you could put a bunch of trees on that instead of putting them on the low ground. Kind of keep the low ground somewhat clear, at least for the first draft. And then you can try to build around that as a thematic. It would play into the name more. It would give a feeling of this like jungle thicket that you have to hack into with a machete or something. And I don't know. I feel like that might be a better way to figure out what you want to do, because right now it might also just be that because like Balefall's map is a jungle map with a big temple influence. My map, latest map, that Swamp Rust map, is a jungle influence, big temple stuff. And now I'm looking at like, obviously your map came before either of those two, but it's like 3 maps in a row that I'm looking at for a long period of time that are all jungle with temple. So maybe there's a bit of bias in that where I'm just like tired of looking at it, tired of the aesthetic. But I feel like with the name, there's more of a connection to a jungle aspect or a woodland aspect than a temple thing. So I don't know what you want to take from any of that. Unfortunately, I don't really have like any actionable feedback. I guess the biggest issue that I can see right now, again, is like I don't really know where I would go on this map. Like, I guess I would go in the direction of my enemies, but there's nothing even on a subconscious level that kind of illustrates that. So I'll open up Balefall's map here, see if I can provide a counterexample based on that. I guess it's just the fact that his map is less open than yours. I mean, I actually think that maybe this is a smaller map. This is a 128 by 128. I don't know how big yours is. So yours is a 160 by 160. So maybe the map size being bigger is working against your favor here. But I'm not sure about that. So, so yeah, Balefall did some funky shit with Raised Jungle, where his naturals and thirds are on the Raised Jungle. And there's kind of some interesting ideas that he has over here, but like with like the Raised Jungle platform over here that can be used to like try to lay into the defenses. I don't know that it would really impact that much, because at the end of the day, the defenses might be tucked in a little bit more or something. But anyway, I'm looking at his map, and it's like the direction of where to go is not as in question. I still think it could be improved. Like, he could line up the ramps better to some of these ruins architecture, or he could line it up with the other angles of the map so that it was like more of a straight shot. Like, if I keep going here, I know I'll go somewhere eventually, and then I can go off that beaten path, as it were, to go maybe scout out a base or scout out something else. And so there's like other things that you can do, but it's still a functional layout. Like, I still sort of know where I'm going. You know what I mean? Like the angles are consistent across the map, because I think he's really fond of mirror symmetry in particular, as opposed to XY, which probably helps on a basic like subconscious level or whatever. But yeah, again, I can't really tell you like what specifically might help. Maybe it's the dirt path as well. It's like you go up this north ramp and you see this dirt path and you're like, oh, I can go down and to the right. And then it like links up over here and it's like, oh, there's another player's base over here. This is actually a bit more concrete in terms of what it directs you towards, because it almost like, again, he could point it up a little bit at this tail of this, whatever this snake or worm or whatever this thing is here that he drew with the dirt. Like, it starts almost at your ramp and also almost at your natural, so it's almost there, and then it ends almost at the ramp to the third, but also almost at the middle that would lead into the rest of it. So like, it's almost there in both cases, just like this ramp not quite lining up with the architecture of the rest of the map. It's like almost there. So he's giving you some direction, but it's not quite as like to the point. And so it's a little sabotaged by that, I think. But can I visualize it in Photoshop? Yeah, he posted a JPEG. So yeah, I suppose I could do that. Do I look like I know what a JPEG is? Oh yeah, and to answer your question earlier, trees have always provided cover. And cover in StarCraft is just the same thing as height advantage. You have a 50% chance to miss. It's very dumb, very boring, and doesn't provide you with any capacity to express your skill. So it's a no-no. Alright, so let's get our brushes ready, man. So we're looking at like a brush size of 33 because 3. Oh, maybe we need to go bigger. 69. Alright, so... Oh. So this is like the main set of pathways right here, where you have the pathways between the players. And then you get a bit of a branch off. Where you can go scout off the beaten path. Nope. What's this? So, I would say the biggest issue just on a layout stage like this is the fact that you, in order to path, like the quickest direction to path between one base and another, in some cases, between the top base and the bottom base on either side, the quickest way to do that is to ignore the entire middle of the map and go straight through. I feel like that this should probably be an island base, these left and right bases, or it should require that you enter from the middle of the map, so that holding dominion over the middle of the map offers you access to more resources. You can leverage that. In this case, you pretty much just ignore the middle of the map if you want these left and right bases. So that's something that I think could definitely be improved in this particular capacity. And that's where it comes down to like the direction of all that stuff doesn't really add up. Like if I wanted to take a look at like how to improve this, then I would want the pathway of copy this again. I would want my pathway to instead be like this. So I have to go through the middle of the map to access my enemy if I'm in these positions. So it would be like this. And sort of like how this it goes through the upper middle section, and this goes through the lower middle section. It still forces you to go through kind of a middle of the map in that sense, right? And then obviously, even in its current iteration, in order for red to get to purple, you would want them to go through here. So that makes sense. But this isn't played up when going from red to teal or from blue to purple. So you really kind of ignore the middle of the map in that matchup. Yeah, you can go and take a base over there. You can split the map in that sense. But in a case where you're both on the same side, well, both on the same, like, left or right, you're going to be in a position where you're not really that interested in the middle of the map. You're interested in fighting, like, over here. And you don't really want that to be the main battleground, because you're, like, fighting through a base. If there was no base here, then it would be even less explicable. And so, like, another obvious thing is, like, over here, we've got ramps that lead into nothing. And it seems like maybe you could use them to drop but why do you need ramps there? You know what I mean? Like, this seems like over-engineering the edge of the map. I would even say, I would go as far as to say the expansions should be placed in a different position that can be affected by a more neutral part of the map that doesn't require you to go that deep with a transport or whatever. Or if you do go that deep, it should be even more accessible to that kind of harassment. But like the only case you'll ever see is like relocator reavers in the late game or siege tank drops in the mid game or something like that. That's the only time you'll see this. I mean, I get obviously muted, like air units can harass over there too. So mutalisks, I guess you could see that in the early game, but you won't see anything else. There's not really much of a point in there. So I'm not really sure. Yeah, I really don't get that one. I would have opened up this area a little bit more. And yeah, there is like this side passageway over here where these temples are, but I'm not really seeing an intense amount of value out of that. Like, that really seems to be only useful, because remember, if this is, I mean, it's not designed for a special team situation. It's not designed for a 2v2. So this is just a 1v1, and you happen to both be operating in the top half of the map. That is the only time that this area is useful. That's the only time. So in that case, maybe I would want to bust this so that I could harass from the north. But look at how many other options I have. What does my opponent have to do to make it so that busting through the north is the only viable option or the most effective option that I have? They've got to like wall off the entire bottom, or they've got to like expand down there and really knuckle down or something. At that point, their assets are more valuable over there. So even in like a shadow boxing environment, I can't really visualize a way for this pathway to warrant the kind of security that it has. I would say actually removing the temple and maybe moving it. I did suggest this to him a while ago, but maybe moving it to cover these two ramps, the twin ramps over here, so that this pathway was available by default. The giant eyebrow to this squid that I just drew by accident. But so you've got that pathway that I just erased, and then these two ramps are a no-go until you blow up the temple, or temples if you need multiple. But you could take this area, and if you move the resources so that this area can interact with those resources, so like say, like, all right, we've got siege tanks in this area, and they can target the minerals because they're in range or something like that. Like, you can use this to harass, then it becomes more vulnerable or something like that. So there's ways to increase the value of other areas around these expansions and not have to rely on like this over-engineering stuff. So hopefully that helped to explain what I mean by the flow thing. And when you said visualize it for map, did you mean your map? Or were you trying to ask me for something more specific about his map? Well, I can definitely do that, but first I need to use the bathroom, so BRB. Hi. I have no idea what Alexander is talking about. Roaming be causing problems with the calls. What does that mean? There were pathing problems, yes. Even in Kakadu Port, there are pathing problems because of destructible terrain. Every time I saw a cartoon with fake dogs bark, my heart was crying. Oh. That's pretty good. I like that one. Alright, what am I doing? I'm visualizing something. Visualizing pixel aspect ratio correction and why it's useful. Bum, 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 bum. Alright, so as far as I can tell, my biggest issue looking at this map, like I said earlier, is that there's really... because there's nowhere to go... What the fuck? Oh. Wait, what? Can I do it now? Oh, I'm in the right tool. Oh. Do what? Oh! Yeah, I have no idea about that one, man. That seems awfully strange to me. It might be that. Why? Why? What the fuck? Okay. So why doesn't the fucking brush tool work if the paint one does? Does the eraser one work? Alright. What if I do this? Will this work then? What? I saved this as a JPEG. Do I have to reopen it? Okay, now it works. That was stupid. Oh, now I gotta do my fucking setup again. Okay, now that we're done with our fucking technical difficulties. Alright, so here's the issue, right? So I know you meant this for a 2v2 map. But do you see the problem? I don't mind playtesting pretty much anything. But the problem that I'm seeing right now is that none of the pathways are really like it. Like at no point do I feel like there's no straight shot into another straight shot. So like there's no like, oh yeah, I'll go here and then down here and then down here and I'm there, right? It's some fucking winding dick road where you gotta go wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. So that's a problem. And there's also so many different pathways that some of them are devalued as a result. Like if I can enter into this area in blue, if I can do so with this pathway, this pathway, this pathway, this pathway, this pathway, this pathway, like that's, there's like 5 or 6 pathways into this area. So why do you need another one that's destructible or partially destructible? So there's not enough segmentation for sure. Like if I were going to do something with this map, I do something like this, where I just cut out a bunch of an area. Like, there you go. Just compartmentalize. Consolidate. I don't know, do something so that there's less pathways. You know what I mean? I just accidentally saved it. But something. So that we got less to worry about. So and again, I'm not really planning this out, but just by sealing off a bunch of this shit, and you can like seal this off somehow so that you can't pass through here. Just by doing that, we now have the option to say, like, I guess you would open that up or something. So, okay, now we can go this way, or we can go this way. And guess what both of those do? You angle this correctly, this one eventually goes down to bottom right. You angle this correctly, it'll eventually go down to bottom left. So you can't do exactly what I did, nor what I recommend you to anyway, because it was just literally fucking around. But you seal all this stuff off, and suddenly your only 2 pathways out of your main immediately are going down to the bottom left, or down that will eventually take you to the bottom right. Again, assuming you as the map maker angle this stuff correctly. So you're giving the player direction by saying you can't go here, you can only go here. The here that you're able to go to will eventually lead you to where you want to go anyway as a player with an objective to kill an enemy player. And that level of map design is better than what you had before, where you pretty much could go anywhere you wanted to, but you didn't know which one would take you there, and most of them would eventually take you there, but then why have all those paths if they all lead the same place? And I don't know what you would do about this middle area over here, but something. So I just used the raised jungle because I wanted to see what the map would look like with less temple and more raised jungle. But, you know, either way, if you were to say, set it up this way where you got one pathway that will, like, you guide the player from red main to teal main. You do the same thing here. Right? Well, you will get an issue where there's not much of a reason to go to the middle if you can just avoid that, if you can stay on the brackets. So you don't necessarily want to do that either. So what you could do is similar to what I recommended for Balefel's map. You could do something like this, where your pathway is to go, since you're rotationally symmetrical with your map anyway, you can go here. You can say, hey, you come out your natural, and then you got to dip into the middle of the map, the northern area over here. And then for purple to get to blue, purple has to dip into the middle of the map on the other side. Hey, what do you know? You actually already have a temple that might even support this because those particular sides are open, whereas the other ones aren't. Now then, otherwise, what you could do for blue to reach teal and for red to reach purple is, while they could take that pathway, again, they could do something like this and then go around to get to teal. If they were trying to get to purple, they could just go straight through. So that one pathway will take them directly where they need to go. Then you can have the other pathways that are open enough that you can move armies through, but maybe not as open as the main pathway, but they lead to resources. So now we're off the beaten path, finding this base, finding this base, finding this base. And you're rewarding players for exploring in your map. You're also rewarding players for locking down entrances to the pathways that will take them, their opponents, right, to those expansions. So that's a big deal, I would say. Thanks for doing that, Ikwer. Hopefully my building Morphook is useful as a basis. I know it's not correct syntax-wise. So yeah, I would say just looking at this, it's like... especially since your map is rotationally symmetrical, you can do interesting things like giving, you know, red and purple easier shots to one another, but making blue and teal have to go around to get to themselves, right? Well, because it's a high yield base, yeah, you're going to have to break that apart. I just mean right now you have something that could work. If you didn't want to break this apart, then you could seal all of it off and make it so that they wrap around. And that it's rotation based on the rotational symmetry, it's easier for armies to move somehow if they are like there's a ramp, like there's another raised platform over here and over here, and the ramps are placed like this so that the lines go through them like that. Whereas like obviously this is like an X, so this would be like if these two ramps were the only ramps. You could have something like that if you wanted to keep the rotational symmetry there. So yeah, I don't know exactly how I would change that, but that's a start. Have a good one, DZW. I just think that having players meet in the middle of the map as the main opening that's a better contact point for the players' armies than having them do. You almost have like two middles of the map right now, right? So if we look at this, like you have a contact point in, broadly speaking, this area between red and blue, red and teal, and then from blue and purple, it's over here, and then I guess like if it's teal and purple, the contact point's over here. All right, so you got like 4 circles. Now, instead of, I'm not saying that you should funnel all decision making through the middle of the map, but for the early game, it being wider, or maybe impossible to access any other pathway, that's like a big deal, because like maybe there is a side path, right? Oh, that's way too big. So maybe you can do something like this, right? And this little disjointed thing here, this S with a tumor at the bottom, is the side path, right? It's like normally you just go here, right? But you can eventually go through this after just some buildings have been destroyed or something. So that would definitely be something that will help point you in the right direction, I think. Like you could do some of what you've done with these destructible buildings to open up passageways, but have them be ancillary to a central pathway between players, between teams, right? So that's what, like, if you're going to do a 2v2 map in this case, it's important to have stuff like a single pathway that goes, you know, that sort of links up, where like it's one pathway for one player, but it'll link up to another pathway from another player on the same team. So you're kind of drawing like, it's like an H with really ridiculously curvy braces, or it's like close parentheses hyphen open parentheses. That's kind of the pathway you're looking at here. And yes, looking at the melee maps in general is definitely generically helpful, I would say. So if we go to like, I don't even know where to find the ladder maps. Search this up. What the fuck? Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend these maps because I think they're quite horrible. And Jesus Christ, nice filter on your goddamn graphics. But so they start in this case. You got bot left and top right. Well, let's look for a 4-player map. All right, Neo-Sylphid is a 3-player map. So Neo-Sylphid is like a very Very basic map, right? Or a ubiquitous map. I don't know why these fucking screenshots are so overexposed. It's destroying my mind. But Neo Sylphid is one of those maps that's like, it's been in the map pool for so long that pretty much everybody has played it or seen it. So we got red, blue, teal, right? So 3 starting locations. And you'll notice that it's really hard to see, but there are neutral eggs over here. And so you can't really squeeze, or I think there's like a single neutral egg there rather. So you can't quite squeeze a lot of units through the mains, which in turn means that the map maker was free to leave a large opening in the natural. Normally, well, maybe not normally, but in a lot of melee maps, you can wall off the naturals. In this map, there's unbuildable terrain in the natural choke. So you can't wall it off. You can SimCity, but you can't ever completely wall it off. That has a huge implication for matchups, right? All this stuff is just in the first bit of time that you're coming into the map and you're looking at the analysis. But if we look at a more broad picture, we see that blue comes out of his main, his natural's there, and then it's a hard right angle out. And then, if he keeps going up, he reaches a mineral-only expansion, right? If he goes down, he finds his 3rd. If he goes further down, he'll find his 4th. That's not a mineral-only anymore. His 4th gas expo. And those are the only bases that are in his territory. So that leaves the entire middle of the map open. There's no expansions here. It's just a courtyard to fight battles in. So you're going to be posturing around the middle of the map looking for an engagement in the mid to late game. You will notice that one criticism I have of this map is the fact that it doesn't really guide you in the direction of the other players. So you really just need to know the map at that point. It doesn't really even guide you in the direction of where your bases are. The ruins is very much like it's serving a gameplay option or gameplay purpose of making it so that it's a little bit harder for mech to sprawl out with just a bunch of turrets. So it basically enforces the science vessel meta for detection, or comset meta, depending on the gas count of the player. That being said, the direction, like the flow is still intact. It's just that it's not as immediately obvious where the flow is intended to be. So you still know that the middle of the map is going to be a big contact point, but ideally you're going to intercept your enemy's army before it has a chance to mass up in the middle of the map. So the middle of the map is like, if my enemy's stuff is already there, we might already be at a disadvantage because they can set up before we can. So you want control over the middle of the map, but it's not really about the middle of the map. It's about the fact that you can go to their base or any of their expansions from the middle of the map. And also remembering that this is a 1v1 environment, even though it is, in theory, a 3-player position. So wherever you want to go, like a Zerg player who spawns in the red position might get teal's base if their opponent is blue, right? They might just try to take the whole right side of the map. But they can leverage their positions from the mineral only to get down to this base, right? Because this is their 4th or whatever. However you want to, I guess it really depends at that point on the map state. But they can leverage their position here to get further down if necessary. The map flow allows for that sort of thing. So I'm looking for a 4-player map. I really hate fighting Spirit and Circuit Breaker, so what is this? Polypoid, by the way. I think I've seen this map a few times. Nothing was funnier than when I saw that map that just had a bunch of fucking it had like disruption webs all over it for no reason. Now I know Hitchhiker because I've seen a number of games on this. This is like a really weird, kind of gimmicky map where you mostly just see a lot of early aggression. You don't see a huge amount of late game scenarios. At least I haven't seen a lot of late game plays. A lot of drops on this map because of the single pathway to the enemy base down the low ground. Everything is walled off. Disruption webs because I don't know. Couldn't tell you. I just know it was there. I don't think it was actually played by too many pros. But. How did I come from the old style of campaigns to today's melee style? Just getting a brain. I don't know how to answer that question really. General dissatisfaction with the status quo and sense that it could be done better, and a desire to create the most fundamentally sound experience. That wouldn't tarnish on repeated playthroughs. How is the volume of the music, by the way? I might be a little... I have my volume up a little bit, I guess, but... Oh, I should probably rename that map. What an awful split.
SCP good to go, sir. Not enough minerals.
Anyway, if one of the things that I'll try to mess around with is...
SCP good to go, sir.
Well, yeah, that is another thing, is like the visual connection or whatever. I'm wondering if...
Reporting for duty.
if my map provides sufficient flow in general. Because you don't want to... Like, you want it to just be a subtle thing anyway. You don't want it to be something where it's like...
SCP good to go, sir.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
Job finished.
Not enough minerals.
Hitting you over the head with how obvious it is. Like, you don't want to be drawing arrows. You know what I mean?
SCP good to go, sir.
But I do think that the naming convention of stuff is pretty neat. If you can draw it in anyway.
SCP good to go, sir. Affirmative. Reporting for duty. Affirmative. Roger that. SCP good to go, sir. Roger that.
Not
Right away,
enough
sir.
minerals.
Yes, sir. Job right away, sir. SCP good to go, sir.
Not enough minerals.
Reporting for duty. Affirmative. Roger
I don't know what you mean by fucked.
Right away, sir. Orders received. Roger that. Right away, sir. Affirmative. SCP good to go, sir. Checked up and good to go. Job finished.
I haven't had any issues with it, I don't think.
Orders received. Affirmative. Roger that. Right away, sir. SCP good to go, sir. Orders received. Reporting for duty.
Not enough minerals. Not enough
Right away,
minerals.
sir.
Not enough minerals.
Affirmative. You want a piece of me, boy? Job
Not enough minerals.
SCV good to go, sir. Yes, sir. You want a piece of me, boy? Yes, sir. Orders received. Roger that. SCV good to go, sir. Standing by. Orders, Captain.
Not enough minerals.
Commander, let's move. Outstanding. Rock and roll.
So one thing that's, I guess, not great about this map right now that I'm looking at is like,
Checked up and good to go. Let's move.
I think this little bit of a block here is actually quite
SCV good to go, sir.
destructive.
Job finished. SCV good to go, sir. Roger that. Piece of me,
Not enough
right away,
minerals.
sir.
Yeah, probably.
Orders
Minerals.
received. Commander, let's move. Outstanding. Rock
Complete.
and roll. Go, go, go. I read you. Right away, sir. Orders received.
Your forces are
Go,
under
go,
attack.
go. Rock and roll. Go, go, go. Let's move. Outstanding. Good to go, sir. Let's move. Outstanding. Checked up and good to go. Go, go, go. Let's move. Outstanding. Give me something to
How rude.
rock and roll.
Jesus Christ. Why are zealots so fucking strong?
Yes, sir. Orders received. Report for duty. Orders
Not enough
received.
minerals. Not enough minerals. Upgrade complete. Not enough minerals.
Roger that.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
SCV good to go, sir.
So yeah, anyway, what I was trying to get at earlier is
Yes, sir.
I genuinely feel like when you have, like, I basically have one central pathway that can open up as time goes on when you blow up more of this blocking stuff. And then I have these really tight corridors. There's like another one on the other side.
You want a piece of me, boy? You want a piece of me, boy?
And,
Orders, Captain. Right away, sir. Roger that. Right away, sir. Got a piece of me, boy. SCV good to go, sir. Right away, sir. Orders received. Right away, sir. I'm finished. Orders received.
will it land?
Research complete. Interrupted.
Roger that.
Really?
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Need medical attention? I'm on the job.
But yeah, I feel like it's kind of blocked up.
Additional supply depots. Your forces are under attack.
Stack. Right away. Stack. On my way. Stack. I'm on the job.
Standing by. Go, go, go. Let's move. Go, go,
Did
go.
someone page me? I'm on the job. Need medical attention?
I read you. Affirmative.
Base is under attack.
Oh, fuck.
Standing by.
Well, time to base trade.
Where does it hurt? Stack. Need medical attention?
Checked up and good to go. Piece of me, boy. Rock and roll. Outstanding. Commander.
Hey, that was easy.
Standing by.
See you, nerds.
Rock and roll. Standing by. Rock and roll. You want a piece of me, boy?
Additional supply depots required. Your forces are under attack. Complete.
On my way.
How embarrassing.
Upgrade complete. Additional supply depots required. Base is under
I wonder why they picked that base if they're not.
Your forces are under attack.
Yes, sir. Orders received. Right away, sir. I read you, sir. Job finished.
Did someone page me?
Let's move. Jacked up and good to go. SCV good to go. Let's move. Go, go, go. Rock and roll. For freedom. I read you.
Freedom.
Order scout. I can't feel SCV good to go, sir. Roger that. Orders received.
Did someone page me?
Give me some of this shit. Freedom. Standing by. Something on your mind? Yeah, I'm going.
Additional supply depots required. Upgrade complete.
Go, go, go.
Upgrade complete.
Need medical attention?
Bring me to him. Something on your mind? I dig. Oh, is that it? I dig.
I'm not actually sure why the or the AI in general have fallen apart recently.
Research complete.
All right, bring it on. No problem.
Bye. Like, forgot I added that. I haven't had that happen to me in XY. I've had that happen to me in rotational symmetry, though. If it, well, I guess it has technically happened, but it's harder to. Yeah, you can do it. You can see it over here. It's harder to reproduce, though. I told SI he's got a lot of problems with his rotational symmetry stuff, and he just basically shrugged at me, so... I don't think we should expect a resolution to that problem anytime soon. No, I just showed you that it happens to me too. And it's not any... It's been on any map size for me. He's not as stringent with the changes in Diamond as he should be. Oh yeah, it's super bad in rotational symmetry. See? No, the only other ones that use custom AI are in remastered, as far as I know. But there haven't been any other custom campaigns that have been announced. Factor 2 is the same thing as rotational. It should be anyway. Yeah. Yeah, that still fucks up just like the others. I guess it's harder to reproduce, but it still happens. I saw it happen earlier. It does. It's very, very fucked, the whole thing. I will say it's a lot harder to reproduce with this one, but it definitely happens. But if you find factor 2 to be better, then use that. It's the same thing as XY. Anyway, like I was saying earlier, I feel like one way I could do this. It's a little ambitious, but I think it can happen. Yeah, this should help with direction. think I got mostly everything here. Huh. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere, maybe. Oh, I did forget one. Easy fix. Oh, fuck, I forgot two. Alright, so we got nice bit mud here. Your high quality jungle mud. We're gonna kind of freeform this one. Because this doesn't really have a gameplay effect in a direct sense. It's not like this is unbuildable terrain or whatever. Where things get a little silly. I think I can do this one. Nice. Well, I guess it did work out, although I am missing a couple of tiles on the top there. Can't believe Blizzard made these tiles appear so fucking frequently. Well, SEM Draft deleted it, so I haven't actually resumed working on it in a while. Well, I only ever got the idea yesterday anyway, but I have not worked on it at all since SEM Draft deleted it. If he would release his shit for everybody else to fix. He wouldn't even have to do any work. So I don't know why he's so reticent to do that. Well, I was not able to save it because it crashed. The program crashed after I started assembling it. And then when I loaded the brush back, it was blank. I don't think it's supposed to automatically save. But I didn't even get a chance to save because it crashed. So I assumed it automatically saved, which was a fallacious assumption apparently, but... He didn't have any reason that he supplied us, I don't think. Maybe there is a legal reason, but if that's the case, he did not provide us with that explanation. Well, there you go. That adds a bit of character to the map and sort of centralizes this area, I think. I'll have to do another, give the AI another look over, though. I really don't know why. There would be issues. Let's take a look. So mind you, the Terrans should not be modified at all in terms of performance. They didn't receive any updates to their money. The Protoss did. They would get one less mineral than they did before per return, and obviously gas. But I don't see how that could possibly explain the situation. Let me see here. I'm really not sure what would be causing the issue, though. Like in this case, they've got 1,000 minerals. They've got 4 barracks requests, but they are not satisfying. They don't have a stuck worker, but they definitely do not want They don't want something. I don't know. I'm not sure why they aren't building more barracks. They're up to 5 requests for barracks. They're not building anymore. So maybe that has something to do with it. Somehow they're getting locked up in some other request. Yeah, I'm definitely at a loss. Alright, so I'll test that in a sec. I have to use the bathroom again. BRB. All right. The only thing I can think of is that there's some fuck happening with that setup, but doesn't really appear to be the case. They're building other shit way before they get the barracks. Double NG. In ways that don't make any sense. Alright, so now okay. Maybe something in weight upgrade def is getting frozen too. I could see something like that happening. But the request gets created, so that almost certainly cannot be the case. Either way, hopefully raising the priority for the production structures here will do the trick. Oh. Well, that's silly. So I didn't actually save the Brood War scripts file, so that's pretty goofy, for sure. But in any case, that does seem to have improved things. Both of those things seem to have improved things. I also realize I've made the changes to the player need blocks, and that's a much higher amount of Zerglings than before. Cool. And they actually have a Dragoon coming with them this time. Nice. Yeah, I don't actually know if fixing it globally resulted in anything, but off it goes. Yeah, they're up to 5 racks now. And a starport, yeah. Still a somewhat bizarre turn of events, but it looks like we've improved their behavior somewhat here. Okay, so let me finish the other stuff we're gonna do. Okay. So we got that done. Oh. Yeah, I guess that's the other thing I should have done here is factory 66. And then Starcraft 66. Oh. Wait, shit. Love you too. I'm just plugging in all of the higher values for the various prediction structures. All right. All right. So this is basically just ironing out some of the issues we've been having with player need, making them build way too many certain tech structures or whatever. It's a temporary fix. Eventually we won't need to rely on it, in theory. But while we have to, might as well fix it up. I think the other thing to consider with this is also whether or not I want to modify the setup for the attacks to be a bit more judicious with what it attack add relatives, so that the whole attack is based first on personality, then on number of production structures. Which would have a knock-on effect, I think, of reducing the overall number of... I don't know why that keeps happening. That's really weird. It would, in theory, reduce the number of requests that the AI has to sift through. At any given time. Which may also improve performance in a couple of other areas. If we're lucky. What's up, Ultralisks? This is all Senma, besides the death metal that was in the background earlier. What's up, Balefall? Oh, there might be. Put out a call. A call. Let's see what pops up. Halfway done with these replacements. Zerg is actually much easier to replace in this particular case. Well, easier in some cases and more annoying in others. They have a much... Well, I've already increased the priority of their like lair and hive and hatchery requests compared to other races, which were all the same. So I don't have to do that change for them. But they have way more... tech structure requests than the other races. Okay. Oh, wait. No, never mind. Wait. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'll say this one here. All right. Well, with any luck, this will restore the AI, including the Zerg. Well, you can't really say Zerg had former glory, but it'll restore something. Oh shit! Bullying! Dude, imagine the Zerg player having more units than anybody else. That's fucking nuts. Meanwhile, a string of zealots. Oh, never mind. A string of 3 legionnaires and 2 zealots on their way over here. See a nerd? Get him. Fucking bully him, dude. Yeah, fuck that assimilator. What up, Ness? Hi, how are you? Mutas! Oh shit! Aspire! Dude, why do they build Scourge? What is wrong with them? Hi. Oh, fuck. A bug, you say? Oh yeah. I don't know why that happens. That's an old one. I'm pretty sure it's from GPTP or something. It is really bizarre though. What? What the fuck? Why do they have all these units over here? What's wrong with you? How embarrassing. Zerg here? Scourge here? Alright, that's it. These guys cannot be trusted. Why would they build them? It's not... Listen, they're critters, okay? Yeah, AG is to defend against air forces, while AA... What? Oh. Wow. Defense build AA also fires if ground forces are in unpathable regions, as in regions that are unreachable. So they're requesting Scourge because they're being attacked by ground units. That is some of the most insane shit. Wait, I don't even request them from AA, though. So that's not true. What the fuck? The only time that I request them is from AG. I like defend against enemy ground force in unreachable region that has no enemy air units in them. How specific. What do you mean extended raised jungle ramps? You just extend it with one tile. You copy and paste it and extend it with the tile that's right there. I mean, you don't even need another tile for north-facing ones. But for south-facing ones, it's literally just one tile in the middle. So you would take it and copy it. Well, then what the fuck is this description by Necron, then? Why is his description completely incorrect if that's the case? Defense build AG. Defend against enemy air force in pathable regions. What good are you if you're not even going to explode correctly, you idiot? What kind of stupid explosive Zerg unit are you? Jesus Christ. What a mess. Wait, you didn't test it, but you're telling me to do it? In an authoritative manner? Well, if we see any Scourge, we'll know you're a fucking liar. Obviously. Not necessarily. Admittedly, I have not checked to see if he's made any corrections since I ported it, so... Who knows, man. Fuck him up, dude. Oh. Don't build Scourge. Okay, let's go. Hi. We're back. Can we fuck you up again? Oh. Don't build Scourge. Your ally is dying, so you could build something to help them, but not Scourge. Well, the first direction is supposed to be the direction that of the unit requested, or something. No, it's like the first direction is the unit that's attacking. The second direction is the unit that's being attacked. So the first direction is the enemy. So A would be air. Second direction is unit that is attacked. So G would be ground. So air units attacking ground units would be the connection to defend from. Oh, looks like Protoss are back to their old overpowered selves. Aha, Zerg here. Well, it doesn't not seem that I've seen Scourge yet, although their fucking unit being attacked by Corsair would mean that Scourge should be being trained, actually, but I don't see any. Just more Zerglings. How unfortunate. Purple went the fucking Goliath build, and who's his direct opponent? The air player. Who would have fucking guessed? Meanwhile, how many Legionnaires you got, bro? Not enough. Not enough, my man. We got a bunch of units down here, but they're not gonna fucking do anything apparently. Hey, that's rude. Hey, you can't do that. Yeah, we should really get that one down pat. The low upgrade counts really kill me, man. I don't know. I don't get that one. All right. Anyway, that does seem to have fixed it. So, whatever. Fuck you, Necron. So, we've done all that. I was kind of thinking of sealing off the side passageways with destructible terrain, but that would bust this map in a 1v1 capacity for sure. Oh, I know why they're not taking this base as their natural. It's because of these fucking structures here too. So the AI just will always refuse to take the natural bases because there's icky structures over there. Well, we'll fix that at some point. I think this map can go though. I think it can go up. Obviously decor is a little lackluster, but I'll toss it up there anyway. Oh, that's one other thing that I can do, actually. I think. I don't really have enough time. I don't think. So Connor wrote a fast expansion into mech. A mech fast expansion or something like that? Yeah, fast expansion into mech. And I was interested in plugging that in. I think the tank wraith could be replaced with it, so we can do like that. Yes, the cannon is definitely always out of place. I can concede that much. Alright, so we'll ship with this. I'll get the stuff set up. Wait. Ooh, that was almost bad. There we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll definitely have time to play it for Fraud Night and stuff, so... The sound effects of my family. Okay. So I just asked Connor for a 12cc and a 10-10-10. Those will both round out the general builds. I have to update walker power at some point. Obviously, I have to make the FE into mech. Then once those are done, all Connor will need to do, if he wants to flesh out the mech one, is like a factory first tank timing build. I guess it would be like 2-fact vault, but it would be like 1-fact tank or something like that for a fast siege mode. And then like I guess it would have to rely a bit more on marines in the early game. But your armory would go down first, probably then your barracks, then your factory, something like that. I don't know how it would play out exactly. But if he'll find something like that, we can use that for the AI as well. And then it'll just be, there's the an 8-rack build and a fast ghost, fast nuke build for raiders for the bio. That would be useful. And then there's all of the air shit. And then Terran is done. And then we can move on to the others. But since he's been focusing on Terran lately, I figured I would add a couple more requests for him. We'll see what happens then. So that's that. Thanks everybody for hanging out today. Hopefully the updates that I shipped today are going to be will result in higher quality games in theory. It's gonna be build 2, right? Yeah. Oh, what even was it before? So DF actually made the new overlay colors for this, so we're just waiting on code for it to be selected between the different effects, and then we'll be good to go. So. All right, so let's take a look here. Wow, I'm impressed that that actually blocks it. Cool. All right, so if you actually want to seal this area off, I would suggest melding this cliff with jungle. You would be able to do it relatively easily. There's a couple of transitionary jungle tiles that you can grab from Stormborn's map and from Consecrate. They both use that feature. vProtoss 01 also has it. But barring that, let's just take a look at the map flow, generally speaking. I like that you can pass through the high ground area and do so without necessarily staking claim to the base. But I do worry about whether or not there's... I guess there's probably too much building space, if I had to presume. Or it's just that it feels like you can isolate this pretty easily, and then it's hard to siege, but we'll see how it plays out. These are too close to the wall. For sure. If you want to make sure that your resources are placed symmetrically, you can go into... I think it's Tile Rot Sim? What the fuck is that? Yeah, I think it's Tile Rot Sim, and you just do this. So do factor 2. I think that should do it over here. Yeah. So as you can see, it appeared over there. So you can just do that. And then you know, like, oh, my geyser's in the same spot and all that. How could you not find the tiles that were literally right above? I understand on some of the more vague stuff, but how could you? It's I don't know about that one. Question mark? Oh, yeah, I forgot I had Tile Rots and stuff. Anyway. So... it's like right above it. Alright, so I would say it does look better. I think I would still be lost after I left my natural, but it's hard to say that, like, definitively. Double base over here is interesting, just because they're so close together, and there's not really much separating them. Like, I'm pretty sure a siege tank in this mineral line could kill workers in this mineral line. Well, I guess I can just test that, but... yeah. It definitely could, because you could squeeze them in. Well, maybe not between... oh, yeah, you could, I guess. So they would like just barely be able to hit workers over here, but you know they're going to splash over there, right? And then I guess like the more dangerous one would be just if you put them over here. So that seems a little rough. Like whoever has positional advantage in this base basically nullifies any control the enemies could have over this base. So it's like you kind of have to have one to have... well, in order to have enough strength to take securely one of these positions, you also have to have enough strength to deny the enemy the other position. So you basically have control over both bases, is what I'm saying. It's a little bit less binary than that, because it does mean that, like, while you yourself are denying the enemy from taking, like, say you're stopping them from taking the top base because you have dominion over this area, you yourself couldn't go over here and take this base because they would have an easier avenue to attack you in. So it is more nuanced than maybe I was making it sound, but I feel like there's a lot of space for you to work around with in the middle of the map that I don't know that you, or even just like over here, that in the strip up here, I'm not sure that you need them to be up against the same cliff there. So I could actually see you pulling this up and making it a rotation through, like ramp here and ramp here, or ramp here and ramp here or something, and or even just like ramp here, right? So it's like a reinforced sort of diagonal line thing that you have going on, where you'd be able to go a straight shot from mid left to top right, and then obviously that means that you'd be able to go straight shot. Also, you fucked that up somehow. But you'd be able to go straight shot from mid right to bot left. And obviously with these two ramps, you reinforce that even more, because you could go in basically like an angled Z or something. You could go like top right to mid left, and from mid left to bot right, and from bot right to bot left. You know what I mean? So you could do that if you ended up doing that, and then this base could be positioned. Maybe you could rework where this raised jungle is a bit more, and this base could be positioned down there somewhere. So you would have it probably up against this side, so that it was still. I mean, you'd move this up, right? So you take the raised jungle, and you'd be like, "All right, here's my raised jungle." Oh, there's some dirt over there. Come on. And so then you'd have your base over here, right? So you'd be like, "Here's my base." And so your minerals would be up against the cliff side over there. So you could maybe reinforce your own worker line or whatever, but you wouldn't be able to necessarily stop enemies from just walking right up in here, right? There's like not a whole lot of cover. So you could add just a tiny bit of cover for the sake of it, but you wouldn't need to add so much cover, right? So the fact that it's still open would actually be an interesting aspect of this map. It means like you have a defensive base, but one that you don't want to clutter too much because it's a nice way to move your army around. Then you have a base over here that's not as easy to defend, but also gives you really good access to the rest of the map, like the main pathways or whatever. Get that out of my way. So I don't know. Like, that's just one idea. There's plenty of things that you could do instead that I'm not talking about right now, but I like the direction of the new middle. Feels better, but I would do another careful pass to make sure that you have the right ramps, and that the ramp tiles over here are not fucked up, and that there's like patches of random dirt and stuff. Otherwise, I would say I think in general it's an improvement. The more you can consolidate that angular aspect, the better. Oh, so they're like down here. They'd be like right here. And the command center would be where the minerals are or something. That could work. Also, just so you know, I just added this to the tile set in the latest commit, but we have this now if you need it. I don't know if it would actually be helpful, but I needed it for my map, so. I had to put that together yesterday, so. Sure I did. I don't have blend for that yet, but if you need that at some point, I can make it. I also do not have a blend for that either. But anyway, once you finalize your layout, I can make blends for whatever you need. But yeah, it's looking better. You kept it fairly open, but by minimizing the number of legitimate pathways, you also improved the overall setup and direction and flow. So I would say watch out for those bits of tiles and the ramps and stuff. Once you fix all that up, I would say make sure that your resources are symmetrical, and maybe experiment with this midsection, these 4 bases right here. I do think you can do something a bit more interesting with the approach to the red and purple naturals, top left, top right. I also think what you can do here is what might need to happen is some more cover for the, I guess it would be the fourths, just for the player, the central bases that are near players. And I think you'll realize that it's really difficult to hold bases if there's not cover, and which is why most bases have a decent amount of cover in the ladder maps or whatever. If there's enough bases, it doesn't matter as much, but this is a smaller scale map, so you probably want decent cover for all of them. Like, this is okay cover, but it's sabotaged by the fact that it's so easy to just position around here and then kill your workers, right? So for melee units, it's decent cover. For ranged units, not so much. It's actually something that hurts you as the owner of this area. So there's a defender's disadvantage there. So I would keep watch for that and be mindful of that, generally speaking. But definitely an improvement over the old version. See if you might be able to improve the terrain direction so that players know they have some conception of their options from as soon as they leave their natural. Maybe even try to guide them towards the ramp in their main as well, for that matter. Like, I don't know how you want to do that, but that's just like something else that you can add. Yeah, I feel like the ruin styles don't provide enough direction right now. So they do provide a gameplay role of reducing build space, but they come at the cost of like me not really knowing what the fuck I'm looking at, you know what I mean? So anyway, I think that the raised jungle stuff is neat. I'm not sure if it'll play out that well, but like, I almost feel like maybe these bases that are below the raised jungle should be on the raised jungle, which would give them a bit more cover and make them a bit more neutral. Sort of like how the central bases here are kind of neutral. Like, these ones would also be kind of neutral. But that's up to you. That's just another idea that I had. I was actually kind of thinking of that 3-player map that I looked at the overlay of earlier, where they had like the fourth for each player was on the high ground, and there was one ramp into it, and it was like surrounded by ledges. It was like there's very little build space and very little map access because there's only one way in. It's not like there's multiple ways out. You can't use it as a pathway or whatever. But it provided you with a very safe, angle that air units could obviously really easily sabotage. So it was something that was, depending on the map state, depending on the tech of your opponent, it was something that could be very useful, or it could be like, I would actually rather go find some other base. And I feel like that's good because there's like a breadth of choices and strategies that you can exploit by doing that. And like, you would never, based on the distance, you would never take it as like an early base, obviously. But if the enemy had like a bunch of mutas or something, you would definitely not want to do that because they would just butcher your worker line. Whereas if the enemy is mostly ground forces, which you would need to have a lot of ground forces, generally speaking, in melee, obviously it becomes a much more attractive position because there's only one ramp into it. So you might consider something like that for the more distant bases that are harder to reach and harder to reinforce as a result, and you need more like map control set up so that you can anticipate attacks to it and then move your army, or like all those other things that go into defending a faraway base. You might consider balancing that out by making those bases very easy to take, very easy to hold because they're not explicitly not easy to take and not easy to reinforce. So that's another thing to consider. Like, even Fighting Spirit kind of has this thing going on where you can, like, Terran players, for example, can defend with like a couple of tanks, like 2 tanks on the high ground or something, because there's going to be so many losses that even if the army inevitably breaks through, like the Protoss army breaks through and kills the tanks, there's so many losses just based on those 2 tanks because of the way that you have to go into the base that when the reinforcements do arrive, they'll mop them up. Or you could implement a base trade where you sacrifice that base as the Terran player, but you know that like a large army just died, so you know, like there's a lot of trade-off going on there. So that's definitely one thing that you could do that would work out fairly well, I think. Is improve the defensibility of some of these farther away bases in exchange for the fact that they don't provide a lot of map access, so there's not a whole lot of map control gained by getting them. They don't provide a lot of build space, so you can't really exploit the terrain for more production structures or supply or whatever. And they don't provide... maybe even they don't provide as many resources. It's just like an additional base to take. I don't know. However you want to balance it out. That's just another idea. It is now around the time that I have to get out of here and get ready for work. So I will once again offer a thanks to those who hung out today. And if anybody wants to continue conversing about map design, they can do so in the Mark Time Strategy channel or in my DMs, because I gotta go. So I will see you guys next time. Bye.